Hello again, and what is hip, and welcome to a different kind of video where I'm going to be showing you guys my video game pickups from the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, and not the one that happened last month, but the one that happened 10 years ago, back in 2012, when I was just 14 years old. And for those of you who don't know, the Portland Retro Gaming Expo is the biggest gaming convention on the West Coast, and if not the biggest in the United States, it's definitely one of the biggest. But I thought it would be cool to go back and show you guys what I picked up, to show you guys what I paid for some of these things back then, to compare them to what they go for now, and to just talk about my memories going to this amazing expo as a 14-year-old kid, because this place had a really big impact on my gaming life and really played a part in getting me into games as much as I am. So yeah, this right here is my crew. As you can see, we were definitely the coolest kids in school, and we definitely looked the part of gaming enthusiasts. And I remember the night before the expo, we all came to my house and we all stayed up late playing video games, and we talked about what we wanted to get. That was always the most fun part. What are we gonna get at this thing? And I wanted anything and everything Sega Saturn, because I had just discovered the Sega Saturn earlier that year, late the year prior, and I never experienced it in person, so I really wanted one. My friend Josh wanted anything Nintendo, and my other friend Antonia really wanted a PSP, and anything video game merchandisey. So yeah, we were very excited. And the next day came, and we all packed into my dad's Honda Pilot, and we went to McDonald's, and after that we went to the expo at 8 o'clock or so in the morning. And I remember we walked into the convention, and I was blown away with how many video games there were in one space. I'd never seen that before, as well as how many people who were into these things. Like finding these two friends who were into retro games that was a hard thing to do. They were the only ones that I knew of at the time. So to see a whole convention full of these kind of people, I was shocked, but I was really excited. And this here is a picture of our hall, and a tradition that we did for many years, and this was the start of it, was we grabbed everything we bought at the expo and we put it on a table in the back, and we took a picture with it, and we called it our hall. And this is our hall. And I bought an NES Zapper there, which I don't have with me. I paid a couple of dollars, and Cruisin' USA, I can't remember how much I paid. I think it was like $5. But I don't have that with me. I don't know if I sold it, but I can't find it. But yeah, it was just a really fun experience. But anyway, let's get right into the pickups here. So the very first game I got was from a dollar bin. That's Wave Race 64. I paid $1 for this at a dollar bin. You're not going to find this in a dollar bin. I'll tell you, if I could go to a dollar bin now and find games that were not sports games, find games like this, I'd be shocked. Although I guess this technically is water sports, but whatever. This is an amazing racing game. It's a racing game where you race on jet skis, and I remember the water physics were amazing for the time back on the Nintendo 64. Even in 2012, I remember being like, wow, it was really cool, and the music was really fun and rocking and really fun. And it's still affordable now, I'm pretty sure. So it's definitely worth a pickup if you have a 64. But they also released a Wave Race on the GameCube, which I have not played, but apparently it's actually pretty good. So I would recommend you get that as well before GameCube prices rise even more than they have. But a wonderful game for $1. Now, the next thing we got here, but before I get into that, we also all brought our Nintendo 3DSs to this thing. This is my original 3DS, and we brought it for Spot Pass, if you guys remember what Spot Pass is. And I remember being shocked by the fact that I got like 50-60 people on this thing. And the 3DS really made convention special, bringing it to a public space. Because you'd meet people that you'd never met before from places that you've never been before. And I still bring my 3DS to public places now, and occasionally I still find a Spot Pass, which is really cool. So in a way, that's kind of keeping that part of video game history alive, and that's really, really fun, because this added a whole nother level of fun to going out. Sorry for the tangent. Anyway, so the next game I got was Rayman 2 on the Nintendo 64. Look at that cool green cartridge. I love the green cartridge. I think Army Men or something on the Nintendo 64 also had a green cartridge. But I really wanted this because I played the GameCube version of Rayman, and I had a lot of fun. I think it was called Rayman 3. And I had a lot of fun with it, and I heard that Rayman 2 was the best in the series. And so I saw this there at the convention. I paid $2.50 for that. And man, this game was a lot of fun. Such a great platformer, really funky. It was really, really cool, and it was Rayman at its best, at least 3D wise. He went through a slump for a little bit, but now he's back in a 2D form, and he's great there. But this was so much fun. I still, the GameCube version still has a very soft place in my heart. But yeah, I picked that up for $2.50, and then I remember going to another booth at the expo, and they had a bunch of Nintendo 64 boxes, and lo and behold, they had Rayman 2's box. And this is beat up. This has seen way, way better days. But look at that. Isn't that so cool? It has this embossed lettering here, and it's all foil. It's really, really cool. Such a cool box. This came with the manual in the box for $1. So I got Rayman 2 complete in box for $3.50. And Oregon doesn't have sales tax, so there was no tax on that either. That is crazy. That is, I wish we had these prices nowadays, but I guess if we did, nobody would ever be selling anything. So that was the most of the small things. I didn't get a whole lot at this convention because, one, I was a 14-year-old kid. I didn't have a whole lot of money. I think I had a spending limit of $150-ish or so, and I saved my money to go to this thing. And so the big kahuna was the Sega Saturn, and there was this one guy who had a booth, and he had a complete in-box Sega Saturn, and I told myself I was gonna get it. I was gonna get it one way or another. I was coming home with that thing. And I went up to the guy, and we started talking, and I talked about my love for the Saturn, and how I discovered this system, and I think it's really, really cool, and I'd love to experience it. And he was super, super nice. You could tell that he was really into gaming for the hobby, and you could tell I was really into it, and he wanted to give me that experience. So he actually had this listed for $60, and he sold it to me for $40. A complete in-box Sega Saturn. And this is the guy. This is the original Saturn I bought 10 years ago from that expo. It didn't come with the action replay, just the system. It still works like a charm. And, you know, I look back on that transaction not just because of the price that I got it for, but because of the guy who sold it to me. I mean, back then, the gaming community was a lot smaller than it was now. I mean, here's a picture of the expo back then that I took, and you could see, like, there's people there, but it's not crowded, not like today. If you go there today, I mean, you can't even walk around without bumping a shoulder. So back then, it was a much more close-knit community, and everybody who was in it because they loved gaming, and they loved the hobby, and they wanted to share the hobby with other people. And this guy was so passionate about the Saturn, and he knew that I was really passionate, and I was a kid. So he wanted to give that experience to me, and he gave it to me for a really, really great price. So, you know, I do miss that with game collecting. There's definitely still a lot of that now. A lot of people are in it because they love the hobby, especially a lot of these smaller YouTube channels, which I think are really cool. You know, it really brings me back to the old days of YouTube, but these smaller channels, because they, you know, it's such a crowded community YouTube is, you know, to get any traction with an audience. So you really just kind of gotta love what you're talking about to do it, because odds are you're not gonna make it too big, or at least I probably won't. But no, it's so much fun talking about these things. But anyways, that was a tangent. So I got that for $40. And the next game I got, funny story, I went to a booth and I walked in and the guy working there was like, "Tyler?" And I said, "Michael?" And it was funny because Michael was a friend of mine back in elementary school, and I hadn't seen him since then because he moved away. And so it had been 4 or 5 plus years since I had seen the kid, and I go to the expo, and he's working at one of the booths. It was crazy, and he remembered me, which was mind-blowing. So we got to talking, we reconnected, and it was so much fun. And I remember he sold me Doom here for $8. And the guy who was working for was like, "You sold that to him for how much?" Because that was actually a good price for this game back then. Really good price now. But yeah, it's really beat up, came with a bad case, but for $8 I couldn't turn it down. And I wasn't a big fan of Doom either, so I was like, eh. But for $8 I couldn't turn it down. And there's such a cool memory behind this as well. So that was really, really cool. And that's one of the reasons why I love game collecting as well. It's just, you know, I look at these games and I don't see dollar signs, but I see memories associated with each game that I don't get as much from a digital format, which is why I will always be a physical collector. Not to have anything against digital collecting. I mean, that's just as fun. You know, it's all about the games in the end, or at least it should be all about the games in the end. Anyways, so the next game I got here is Virtual On for the Sega Saturn. And I got this from a booth in the back. And I paid $30 for this. And the cool thing about this is it's still sealed. It's brand new. You can see right there, it's got the Sears $34.99 price tag, which is super cool. And it's got the hang tab at the back. Virtual On is such a fun game. It's a 1v1 mech fighting game, and you just go around fighting in mechs. It's a lot of fun. It's 1 or 2 players, so you can play against someone, and it's just so much fun. And you can get a non-sealed version, an opened one, like around 40-50-ish bucks or so, so it's still attainable. And there's also one on the Xbox, the original Xbox, but I heard that one's not quite as good. But yeah, $30 for a brand new Sega Saturn game. And I almost didn't buy it back then because I was like, I hadn't heard of Virtual On. I was like, $30 is kind of a lot of money. But thank goodness I did pick it up. Because for me back then, it was all about what I loved. It wasn't about what was collectible. It was what can I see myself playing. And I mean, of course I never opened it. I thought it was cool that it was sealed, but you know, I remember looking at the box and thinking that game looks like a lot of fun. So I did pick it up, and thank goodness for that. So the last game I picked up here is Shining the Holy Ark for the Sega Saturn. And this game is wonderful. It's an RPG, it's a dungeon crawler. It's probably my favorite RPG on the Saturn system that I've played personally. I haven't played all of them. But the graphics are wonderful, the music is great, the magic attacks and the battle system looks so cool on this thing. And I got this from a guy in the back, and he was actually deaf, and so he did a lot of his communication via notepad, and he had an interpreter there as well. And I remember we got to talking, and he was so wonderful. He was so into the Saturn, and he was so into the fact that I was into the Saturn. And he had this listed for $50. I still got the price tag there. I got for $40. So I got this for $40. And I think this goes for mid-hundreds right now, which is insane. But just, I had such a fun time at this expo. And, you know, the expo still is magical today. I think it's lost a little bit of the charm because it's a lot more, I mean, gaming is so much more widespread now. And back then, it wasn't quite the cool thing. It was right on the cusp of becoming cool back in 2012, but it wasn't quite there yet. So prices were still cheap. People collected because they just wanted the games. It wasn't for investment. It wasn't for anything like that. It was just to have the games. And this was right when we were starting to see the change of that, and when gaming became a lot more popular. But I had such a fun time. I have pictures here with me and Metal Jesus and Jason Heine and Gamester81 from the All Gen Gamers, if you guys remember that from way back when. And it was so cool seeing them because they were my gaming heroes back then. Back when they were small little channels. Isn't that crazy? Now they're all big names, and it's so crazy to see where the gaming culture has gone in just 10 years. When I talk about like some of these prices or my experiences back in 2012, it feels like I'm talking about 40, 50 years ago when it's only been 10, which, I mean, is not that long, but it feels like a lifetime ago. It's really, really insane. But I am so happy where this gaming culture has gone, and I'm excited to see where it goes. But I also don't want to forget where it came from as well. So, have any of you guys been to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo or any convention at all from back in the day, 10, 15, 20 years ago? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know. And thank you so much for sticking through this kind of different video. And if you were into this, let me know in the comments, because I could do one for 2013. I could do a pickups video from the 2013-2014 Portland Retro Gaming Expo. That might be kind of fun as well. But yeah, thank you so much guys for watching. Have a good one.